Welcome, friends, to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. I am a retired New York City police detective and a 9/11 World Trade Center first responder. Hey, folks, if you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, please consider hitting the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon and when Ed Wallace is inside the country when we go live or upload another video. Ed's in New Zealand. He's traveling with his family. He's in the chat, and I want to say hello to Ed Wallace. Guys and girls, I also want to say thank you to the moderators, the Patreon supporters, the folks who buy cups of coffee, the folks who hit that thumbs up and leave us comments down below. You guys are what makes this a great place, and I say this with extreme conviction. I feel like we have one of the best true crime communities on YouTube. I know a lot of people say that, but you guys are really second to none. So thank you. I give thanks and praise to you guys day in and day out. I'm battling rotator cuff. I have a severe tear, a full tear of rotator cuff. So I'm having surgery on Tuesday, the 26th. I ask for some prayers. I don't usually ask for prayers. I'm hoping it goes well. I'm a little bit nervous about it because it is a full tear. I know that the rehab and the recovery is a long way. So grin and bear some blank time for me to recover. I'm going to be off the air for probably another 2 weeks after that. I'll be uploading some videos and doing some recorded shorts for you guys. But I just, I'm asking, I don't usually ask you guys for this, but yeah, just keep me in your thoughts. I hope it goes well. And I told my surgeon, get a good night's sleep on Monday. Don't come here tired. Come ready to perform. So, we're going to be talking about Jodi Hildebrandt, the shocking body cam footage, and Ruby Franke. We're going to watch them get carted away in handcuffs, which is kind of soothing to see. But we're all pissed off because this document dump by the police department in Utah, you get to see firsthand that caller, the older gentleman that called when Ruby Franke's son came walking up to his house from Jodi Hildebrandt's torture chamber. You saw a 12-year-old boy, Russell, come walking up to the home and ask for 2 favors. And then he consolidated it to one. Just take me to the nearest police station. He had duct tape on his ankles. He was malnourished. He has malnourished. He looked like, something that you'd see from a concentration camp. And it reminded me of Shonda Vanderock, this sick, vicious, evil demon over in Norton Shores, Michigan, how she tortured and murdered her own son, Timothy Ferguson. This case reminds me of that. It reminds me of it a lot, but the only difference is that Russell was able to escape and get to that neighbor's house. Had he not escaped, we would be looking, and I can say this with extreme conviction, 2 murders. Not just Russell, but his sister. These are just little kids, 10 years old. These are still, in my eyes, baby. I have also a special treat for your attorney, Melanie Little, my good friend, somebody who I met here just maybe 6, 7 short months ago through a mutual friend. And she's been flourishing on YouTube. She's doing a great job. She's respectful. She's a seasoned trial attorney. She's going to come on because she's been covering this case, and she did a video last night on this very topic. She's going to come and spend some time with us. And Melanie, she will give you her all for 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever it takes. She's all in for the victims and their families because she's a mom of 5 and she cares about this stuff. So thank you. Melanie's waiting in the green room. Let's listen to a little bit of a local coverage. I want you guys to hear what we're going to discuss tonight.
Live to Garrett James, who's taking us inside the home of Jodi Hildebrandt, where it all happened. Garrett?
Yeah, Brian, that's right. And going through the video, it was a sad video to watch it unfold itself. However, one thing I will say, in these new release videos, you can see the moments where police and first responders first step into the home where they end up finding the little girl.
Step out of the house.
No, I'm not going to step out of the house.
Step out of the house. Step out of the house.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
I don't know about you guys, but I actually like that they grabbed her out like that. And to hear her say, whoa, 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 whoa. No. The emergency exception rule comes into play here, and we don't need a warrant She starts going into her little warrant thing with her attorney, who she couldn't even remember the attorney's name on the phone that she was talking to.
Wait a minute, how do you come to my house? How can they go into my house?
Is there anybody else in the house?
Yes,
2 kids?
there's a little girl.
Just one?
She's right over here.
Okay. How old is she?
She'll be 10 next week.
Okay.
According to the time on the body camera footage, they discovered the child in a closet about 7 minutes after they had made their way into the home. This is the moment they found the little girl.
You come in, my buddy. I'm a police officer. Are you going for the union here? Hey, you okay? There's just you in here? I'm Sergeant Tobler. What's your name?
A few minutes pass by, and Sergeant Tobler sits down with the girl, trying to speak with her.
It's okay if I just sit here with you. We don't have to say anything. You don't want to. Okay? I'll just sit here with you.
What looks to be a few hours later, according to the time on the body cam footage, the little girl is still in the closet. The Santa Clara Ivins fire rescue team is even attempting to talk with the girl, but nothing.
You don't want to talk? Okay. There's nothing at all you want to talk about? It's okay to talk to me.
This situation left several first responders feeling very emotional.
Shades on.
You could just see and feel the emotions that those first responders.
Yeah, I agree. The emotions of that first responder, young woman, she'll never be the same behind that incident, behind recovering and going inside that home and bringing that young 10-year-old out, Eve. Without further ado, I want to introduce my good friend and attorney, Melanie Little. Thank you for joining. Melanie, what did you think of that piece and those things that we just saw there? Not just as a mother, but just as a human being. Your thoughts?
Thank you so much. I think it is so much worse than any of us imagined when we first learned about this case, all the way back in August of 2023. August 30th was the day that the young boy escaped. And I think watching all of this video and seeing this document dump and the journal and all of it's really illustrating the horrors that these children went through. And I almost cry every time I watch that video. You know, they're at the end of the video, they bring her some food and a piece of pizza. And I don't know if you're going to show that part, but it takes her a really long time to even reach for that pizza because food was always used as a punishment in the Franke home and food was withheld. And so I feel like she thinks she's going to get in trouble if she even tries to eat that pizza. And it is heartbreaking. And those first responders are unbelievable, the work that they did, the sensitivity with which they handled the young girl. I think she was 9 years old, trying to coax her out of the closet. It's heart-wrenching. And I think everyone feels the same way. How could you not?
Yeah, it was heart-wrenching to say the least. Now, this, according to the journal that we looked at, and thank you for bringing that up when we talked earlier today, according to her journal, it started May 22nd of 2023, and her young son escaped. That was the August 30th that we're looking at this body cam footage. So when we compare this to that Shonda Vander Ark that I brought up in my opening, I feel like if this was left, if this young boy didn't get out, if he didn't get out and go to that neighbor's home, and I know that there was other attempts and he got caught or came back, but had he not gone out, Timothy Ferguson in 6 months was starved and tortured to death. Same type of situation, wall sits, the hot sauce, and they were making him ingest it. They weren't using it to treat wounds, but there was so many parallels. There was so many things that were so similar to what Shonda Vander Ark did to her kid. And you apply it in this case. It just doesn't make sense. And when we look at Melanie, 15 years, and Ruby Franke was ready to testify against her partner, her confidant, her life coach or whatever you want to call this moron. I call her a
Co-defendant.
co-defendant, evil demon, somebody who was capable of murder. She was talking about taking and moving out to a farm to take these kids out to further the torture. I mean, as a mother, what goes through our minds when you think of this stuff?
I'm horrified. I think it's so hard for all of us to wrap our heads around this. You know, how could anyone do this to their child? How could anyone do this to someone else's child, any child? And you're 100% right. This would have turned into Shonda Van Ark ×2 because there would have been 2 decedents here. And that is to think of. Thank God that little boy had the courage to get out of there and make an escape that was successful this time, because you're right. He did try one other time. And the journal says how much, the severity of punishment he got for trying to run away. It's mind numbing. I can't wrap my head around it. What can you say?
Yeah, it leaves us speechless. But, as a law enforcement professional, and I have seen various different degrees of child abuse and so forth, this takes the cake, because these were wealthy people. And look at that home that she was in. That was a compound, and it was in the mountains, and that is the lay of the land there, the terrain. All the homes are just like that. But they felt, and especially Jodi Hildebrandt, she felt that she could get away with this without anybody knowing. They put the husband on ice. That guy was just told to stand down. I have to correct this marriage. I mean, we could go into a whole thing here, but I look at the husband, I look at her business partner. We talked about this before we went live. Her business partner, Pam, she's not an innocent bystander here. She knew what this full operation of this connections farce. These people are fucking freaks in my eyes. They're out there torturing little kids. You got a 10 and a 12-year-old. And, I name names because the bottom line is this stuff is out there. It's publicly out there. I know that they're, keeping it redacted from the police official release, but I mean, it's not a secret about these kids' names. They're being talked about all over social media. But look at these kids. They're going to have to live with this for the rest of their lives. And I got to see this body cam footage and all of this stuff. Like, I kind of cringed when this document dump came out, not for us and to see it. I cringed for the kids.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to grow up and be adults, and this is what they're going to see.
Yeah. You brought up Pam Botcher, who was one of the business partners, and that's Pam Botcher's house in American Fork, Utah, which is 4 hours away from where these children were found in Ivins. That's actually where they found the 2 older Frankie girls.
Yes.
They were scrubbing floors at Pam Botcher's house. And so what's that all about? I have questions. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah. And listen, I have it queued up. When I covered this, and I believe you might even been on with me, this is the body cam footage of it.
Of Pam Botcher's house. Yeah.
Explained to you.
I want to get it to the point where so they already have her in the car.
I'm trying to figure out. So so it's in my car, but right now my concern is.
Will you just tell them you're all right?
Well, we have to physically.
So the kids are hiding behind the door, and she's shielding them. This is, again, this is from KSL TV, local affiliate there, TV channel 5. But she was so defensive here, and she was hiding the fact. I saw the full body cam footage of this. She didn't say, oh yeah, they're inside. It took a little while for these cops to coax it and to get it out of her. And she was asking, do you have a warrant? The same bullshit. I'm going to put us back on.
Yeah.
The same bullshit that you hear from Jodi and Ruby, because she was, coached by her, and she got her under her, I can't even lift my right arm, but the woo-woo spell of this connection farce bullshit that she was preaching all over the internet. But this one here, she seems like she's a soldier for Jodi Hildebrandt, no?
Right. And she doesn't want to let the police know that the girls are even there. It's almost like she's hiding them.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm going to go from the beginning here. They kind of cut this up. So he goes to the knock, and then they kind of edit it, but let's just take a look at what her initial reaction is. And this is all that day. Look, you can see the date, 8/30, 2023, right up here.
Yep. It's about 5 hours after the little boy escaped.
How's it going?
He turns on.
I'm Officer Hawkins, sir. I'm looking for Pam. Pam in today?
That's my wife.
Is your wife? She's here.
Right behind the door.
Hello, Pam. How are you doing?
Good.
I'm Officer Hawkins, American Fork Police Department.
Hi.
So we had a agency assist out of St. George and Springville that we're just looking for. Okay. When you picked her up, what was the case? Did somebody ask you to pick her up, or did you just pick her up? What was going on?
Well, I'm having guests coming, and she came and did some cleaning for me.
Some cleaning for you?
Yeah, they're blocking out the kids.
We're right now in the
In the
house.
living room, okay.
Okay, great. We're gonna have both of you come out here then.
If you can, just for a second, we just have to go over some stuff.
You have a warrant?
Yeah, we do.
Let
Boom.
me see it, please.
So it's in my car, but right now my concern is
Will you just tell them you're all right?
Well, we
Yeah.
have to physically see
So
her.
this cop actually used a good legal thing that he has, and Melanie, you could talk on this. The
Yeah.
emergency exception rule comes in, and he doesn't need a warrant to. They've already said the kids are here. He said their names. You heard the audio black out, drop out. He was asking to see them, and
Right.
if they said no, you can't see them after they told him that they were in there, he could actually force his way in and just go in there.
Yeah,
So-
exigent circumstances, right? If he's looking
Yeah.
for a person, he can get in there without a warrant.
We used to use, in layman's terms, just call it the emergency exception, because a lot of people don't know the legal mumbo jumbo. And for our listening audience, basically any police officer, if they can articulate in a court of law that they feel that there was an emergency, where, look, in over at Jodi's house, you had the son who came to the neighbors. They confirmed. The son said, "My sister is back at the house." We saw in the beginning of this live stream, Jodi Hildebrandt being manhandled. And I don't think that was even a manhandling. He just grabbed her and said, "Come out," because they
Right.
were just not having her bullshit. But they just grabbed her and pulled her out because they knew that was well within the law. The guy, within the guise of the law, they could grabbed her and pulled her out because she said, "Yeah, there's a 10-year-old here." And he said, "We're looking for the kids," plural. She corrected him and said, "No, there's one kid, 10 years
Right.
old, and she's locked in a closet." She didn't say that, but
No. And she, who are they supposed to believe her? Like,
yeah.
she's not the most truthful.
So eventually she's taken out to the police car, and for safety purposes, she's handcuffed. She wasn't placed under arrest. They put her in the car to cuff her. You're allowed to do that, place handcuffs on him just to figure out what's happening. He wanted to make sure that there was no abuse, either sexual abuse or physical abuse, to the children that were there with Pam and her husband. Right away, when you're, as a police officer, you're now raised up in your suspicion when someone says to you, "Do you have a warrant?" It's well within your right to say that. But if you have nothing to hide, and you have your friend who she goes on to tell the story, "Oh, Jodi said, can you just watch the kids for a little while and drop them off here," or whatever, or "I picked them up," whatever bullshit she spewed out, she made it like it was so blase. Yeah, I was just watching the kids. But meanwhile, the husband had full knowledge too, because he said, "Do you have a warrant?"
Yeah.
If a cop comes to my house and I got somebody, you tell me, "Hey, Ron, watch my daughters. You and Janine watch my kids for a little while." And the cops come, they go, "Do you have so-and-so?" I'll be like, "Yeah, come on in. They're right here. They're
Of
here.
course.
No problem. You want to come
Of
in?
course.
You need a water? You want some coffee? Come on in."
Because you have nothing to hide.
They didn't do that. Your thoughts on that, Melanie?
Yeah, because you have nothing to hide. They didn't do that right away. They're invoking, do you have a warrant? Something's up. And they know something's up because I think Ruby's the one who called her and said, I have an emergency, a family emergency. So can you go pick up my girls at work? And so she picks one of them up at work, and maybe the other one up at work as well. And she's got them scrubbing her floors, she tells them, because she's got guests coming in. The whole thing's a little sus. So consciousness of guilt, maybe, as Ed would say, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to just tell you guys this. what I'm about to play is a little bit sensitive. So if you suffer from any type of PTSD or anything where this involves children, 10 years old, 12-year-old, we're going to watch Russell, the son, come up to the neighbor, and he has duct tape. Oh, look who's here. It's Mr. Wallace. He has duct tape on his ankles. He's malnutritioned. He looks so thin. He comes walking up and he rings his Ring video doorbell and asks him for 2 favors. So let's take a listen to this and we'll welcome Ed back in. Here we go, folks. Again, PTSD warning. This is going to be a little tough to look at.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could do 2 favors.
Well, what are they?
Taking me to the nearest police station.
For the first time, we're hearing from Ruby Frankie's son himself, the emaciated 12-year-old boy who broke free from duct tape shackles and ran for help. His escape exposed the shocking abuse at the hands of his mother, Ruby Frankie, and her friend, disgraced psychiatrist Jodi Hildebrandt. County, Utah finally released dozens of documents, photos, audio recordings, and videos, all relating to the Frankie case, and we're getting a firsthand look at what happened. We know that on August 30th of last year, the Frankie's son, who we are identifying as RF, broke free from Jodi Hildebrandt's Ivins, Utah home and ran for help. Here's a video of him approaching a neighbor's home and ringing the bell.
He could barely walk.
You can see RF ring the bell and wait at the front door for someone to answer.
It's wearing socks.
Yeah, this poor kid, it breaks my heart. And it looks like there is duct tape here. It's light. It's covering his wounds.
As he stands there, RF is emaciated with extremely small legs. You can see the duct tape around his ankles.
Oh my God.
Wearing a ragged long sleeve shirt that has blood on the arm and socks without shoes. When RF knocks on the door, it's soft, almost as if he's too weak to make a loud bang.
Yeah, wow.
After about 2 minutes waiting at this home, RF leaves and heads to another neighbor's home.
Kid. This is August, so it's probably hot as hell there.
110 degrees.
RF visits, makes the infamous
Jesus.
911 call, and the entire thing is caught on Ring camera video. Here, you can see the boy slowly approach the door before pressing the intercom. At first, it seems like no one will answer the door as there's an automated response.
Answer the door right now, but if you'd like to leave a message, you can do it now.
So RF starts to walk off before we hear what sounds like a door opening.
Thank God for Ring video doorbell.
Yes.
Did you see how he
RF
looked
turns
right
around
back?
and faces
As soon
the
as that
neighbor.
door opened, he heard that door, he turned back like, oh, somebody maybe might want to help me.
Asking for what he calls some favors.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could do 2 favors.
Well, what are they?
Taking me to the nearest police station.
The man asks the boy what's going on, and he replies, it's personal business.
Well, actually, this one's fine.
What's going on, son? Have a seat there.
It's personal business.
The neighbor asks RF how he got over there before the video cuts out.
So this man is also going to be, for the rest of his life, touched by this, affected by it. The wife comes out there and starts giving him food and so forth. But I wanted to go to you, Ed. I know you're in New Zealand. Thank you for joining, Mr. Wallace. What's your thoughts on this document dump here?
Well, it's very eye-opening, to see the extent of what these kids had to go through, and to see the horrors that were in that house, and the fact that this woman was a psychotherapist, a marriage counselor, and the things that she was doing to these children, and they're not even her children. She basically busted up that family, and took the wife in and the children into her house, and were torturing these kids. It's sick. It's sick. And, I heard a bit of it when I was at breakfast this morning at the hotel that you guys were talking earlier about the similarities between this case and Paul Ferguson and his mother and everything there. I wouldn't be shocked if she was following her on YouTube.
Yeah, it could be possible. Yeah. Ed, we covered this case, and Melanie joined us a few times as we spoke about this, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have her on, is because she did such great coverage on this stuff. But when you look at the legal aspect of this, we're all sitting here as true crime fans and true crime enthusiasts. We're all looking at this and saying, why in God's name were these two afforded a plea deal? And I guess under the guise of the law, under the letter of the law, the 15 years, it just seems like these people are dangerous. Do you think, and I'll ask Melanie and then I'll go to you, Ed, do you think that after 15 or 12 years or however many years Jodi Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke spend in jail, that they're going to be able to come back out into society and be good people? Melanie?
No, no, I don't think so. Under Utah law, they've pled guilty to 4 felony counts of CA, and under Utah law, the maximum that you can serve consecutively in Utah is 30 years. So even though each count carries 1 to 15 years, which would total a max of 60, they can only serve a max of 30 under Utah guidelines. Now, when the judge sentenced them back in February, Utah is a little bit different than we do it here in New York. The judge doesn't set the sentence. The sentence is set by the Utah Board of Pardons and Paroles, or Pardon and Paroles. So we don't really know how much time they're going to serve. It could be a minimum of 4. It could be a maximum of 30. And they will go before the Board of Pardon and Paroles 6 months after sentencing. So August would be the latest, I think, that they would go before the board. So right now, we don't even really know how much time they're going to serve. But do I think that's enough? No way.
No. I can hit the, hold on.
Oh, hell no.
The oh, hell no button is very appropriate here. Ed, I wanted to go to you because you are the voice of reason as well. Do you think that these two, no matter what kind of therapy they receive, especially when I look at Jodi, she was the mastermind behind this, and she did this to many other couples, right? The Mormon Church was hiring her to go and evaluate couples who needed this fixing or whatever the hell they referred to it as. But Ed, I wanted to get your thoughts. I know you got limited time.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to change, and she's very narcissistic, and she thinks she's smarter than everybody else, and she thinks she had the correct methodology to discipline children and to raise children. And I would be investigating all of her previous clients, to see, if this has happened before. Okay. I understand by researching some of the things that she's done and other people coming on. And there was an actual other news station that did a story on some of her previous clients and how she busted up their families and their relationships and so forth. But this isn't the first time she's done this. So really, they need to do a deep dive into her and what else she's done to other people.
I agree. But will we see that? A lot of times the prosecutor and the police department, they get these cases and, okay, well, we have, we have them, convict, they pled guilty, they're sentenced, and we're hopefully not done with this.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
They wash their hands of it. The law enforcement isn't typically proactive in this fashion. They'll say, hey, if there's any other victims of this person, please come forward. And if nobody comes forward, they close the case, right? Instead of being proactive and getting list of potential clients and so forth and figuring out what was going on here.
Yeah.
Well, actually, her niece did come forward. Ruby's niece, Jodi's niece came forward and said that Jodi's niece was abused the same way by Jodi back in 2005. Same tactics. She was very vocal about it. Her name is Jessie Hildebrandt, and horrifying.
She talked about the duct tape. She talked about her being convinced that she was addicted to porn and that she was no good, and all of the isolation and the look. We're going to see in a little bit the daughter come walking out of that closet after 4 hours and a personal pizza and then a second half of another personal pizza. She ate it so reluctant. She was so reluctant to take it, pull it to her. She pulled it to her, but she walked out of that closet from the bathroom, off the bathroom, like a zombie. I mean, I saw it. I had to look at it 2-3 times before I was like, what is this? She was that much under their control that she was still frightened after 4 hours of sitting with EMS, that young EMS worker, and the police. Now, granted, the sergeant who first came and discovered he had an AR-15, an assault rifle, he was, looking in and he was like, "Oh, come with me." I mean, I think any kid would be a little bit scared by that, but after 15 minutes or 10 minutes, he got down and sat down on the floor with her. She was not budging. And we saw that same behavior from Ruby Franke in the interview when we got her in the box, as we say. When she was in the interview and interrogation room, which never happened, she didn't say a word, just stood there and stared.
Initially, they thought she was a boy because Ruby had shaved her head as punishment.
Yeah.
Ed, you were going to say?
Yeah, it seems like the common theme here is they use food for torture. They starve the children as a means of torture. So I don't want to eat. If I eat, I'll get in trouble. So. Yeah,
it's crazy. Somebody said that she made the son sit out in a hailstorm, stand outside and sleep outside in these extreme temperatures. And I think in the past we covered the extreme sunburns that he was getting and being exposed to. This could lead to skin cancer in the future and all kinds of, forget about the psychological and the mental situation. He could be looking at long-term health conditions from the starvation, from the exposure to the sun. These are monsters and they should be locked up forever. If it was up to me, they would be thrown under the jail. They would be thrown under the jail and locked up for the rest of their lives for what they did to these kids. Because if another 3 to 4 months went by or less, those kids would have been dead. They would have killed them. And that we all know. All of us here on the panel know that. All of you watching know that as well. Hey, I wanted to just mention to the folks in the chat, if you're not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing to Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. Also, I have linked in the description Melanie Little. Attorney Melanie Little is on YouTube and she goes live quite a bit and she gives you all of her thoughts and also the legal ups and downs of all of these cases. She reads through documents, she covers the court cases. Please go over and subscribe to her. It's linked in the description. I wanted to just go further here. And Ed, are you pressed for time or can you hang out?
Yeah, I got about 20 minutes.
Okay. Anything that I didn't cover that you might want to add to this, Ed, as far as the documents and the body cam footage? We know the legality of why they were able to release this. It's public record under the Freedom of Information Act. Once a case is, completed and defendants are sentenced, this stuff becomes available. But anything additional that you might want to add to this, the document dump? We saw journals that we're going to go through from Ruby Franke and so forth.
No, it's good that we get this information out there so that the people can see. And therefore, when they see this thing, they say, "Oh, something like this. I heard other people talking about something like this occurring in their community or within their, a group of friends or whatever the case may be." And so that, if you hear something like this, if you see something like this, then, if you see something, say something, hear something, say something. Don't sit idly by. If you suspect that something like this may be going on in your community or within your family or your church or whatever the case may be. All right. Don't let these things go unchecked. If it turns out to be nothing, no harm, no foul. But if it turns out to be something, you could be these people's saviors.
Yeah. And I wanted to also ask you too, Melanie, people are asking in the chat, like, here, look at this from Chloe. She said, why didn't they get attempted murder charges? Why were the charges So, I mean, there were 4 felony charges, and we all know what they were. Why wasn't there more?
That's a great question. And I guess they felt that they did not have enough evidence to charge them with attempted murder. The great point that Ed brought up about see something, say something. And what's so interesting about the original 911 call, which I'm sure you went over because that was released all the way back in August, that neighbor says in the 911 call about Jodi Hildebrandt, we knew she was bad, but we just didn't know how bad she was.
Yeah.
So the neighbors kind of knew that something was up with her. And so, like, you're right, Ed, see something, say something. Like, people need to start paying attention to what's going on with their neighbors because you could save a child. It's heartbreaking.
Unbelievable. And now she had some problems in the past on the regulatory licensing in the state of Utah. She had some kind of allegations against her, and she had lost her license for a little bit, if I'm not correct. And then she got it back.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Let's listen to a little bit more of this, and we'll hear what the neighbor says. As you said, Ed and Melanie, he talks about Jodi, and that we've had problems with her in the past, and kids running around the street half naked and in their underwear and socks and so forth. And that brings me to another point. I'm not going to go deep into this, but we've mentioned this many a times. When the police get called out to these things, they need to take more time when it involves kids and sensitive subjects like this. And I'm not, dogging these the police departments, but we saw it in Harmony and Montgomery. They were called out there 16 times to the residents, and the lights were shut off. There was no heat. They were using a generator for power, and the neighbors were calling because crackheads were coming and going from the Guilford Street home, and nothing was done. When you see these signs, and when there's multiple signs, and we have it here in this case is no different than some of the other ones. The common denominator is the resources. They're being pulled. And I can say, when I was an NYPD patrol cop, I would come in for a midnight tour, and they would be holding 200 calls for service for the late tour, for the midnight tour. I would come in and hear on the radio, we're holding 200 in the 7-5 precinct. And I'd go down to my locker and put my vest on and put on my gun belt and know that, holy shit, I got a long night ahead of me. So sometimes you have a lot of volume and you got to go through this stuff quick. In these places like where we're looking at here, I can guarantee that they aren't holding 200 jobs waiting for them. So why aren't they taking more time with this? That's my question. But let's take a listen to this.
Next, we see video of the neighbor making the infamous 911 call that up until now, we only had heard audio for. As you can see, RF is within earshot of the call.
1512. I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he said he just came from a neighbor's house, and he's emaciated. He's got tape around his legs. He's hungry and he's thirsty.
Need someone immediately.
Another video shows the man still on the line with 911.
But he has duct tape around him.
Big injuries. There's sores around them.
Yeah, there's sores around him. I think the good chance he's been.
And he also has.
Oh, and he has one around his
wrist
ankle.
as well.
I mean, his wrist as well. Okay, this boy has been.
Needs immediate attention.
The 911 recording is famous for the neighbor tearing up during the call as he explains the boy's condition. We now know that as one neighbor was saying all this, the other was comforting RF.
Oh, you were such a good kid.
This kid is always sleeping.
What good people that is right there. Those people are good people.
He's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
In another ring video from the same house, we see RF eating for the first time as emergency responders arrive.
He's hungry and he's been running the empty time. It's dark and bleed. So he escaped.
We need the police here now.
No.
You know how many hours you did that? Okay.
And Ed, you could see, and Melanie, you could see how stressed out this woman is. She's like pacing back and forth. We need the police here now.
Oh, she's mad. She's definitely mad.
And she's looking at this kid in front of her who's emaciated with cuts and wounds. I heard Jesse Weber last night say the crime scene photos, I guess he got a look at them. He said they were so difficult. He didn't even want to describe them, the amount of injuries and how deep those wounds were on his ankles. And these people are just, they got a knock at their door. And this young boy is sitting before him. I mean, it had to have been traumatizing for them, you know?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
And remember, too, they were dressing these wounds that some reports say were down to the bone with cayenne pepper and honey before they put duct tape over them.
Jesus.
So imagine the pain, the torture, monsters. I mean, there's a special place in hell for these people, as far as I'm concerned.
And Ed, you can confirm this. We took shit for when we talked about this cayenne pepper and putting it on dressings. People were like, "Oh, that's perfectly fine. The military, they use that out in the field. This isn't the military. These are little kids in Utah in the middle of nowhere that are being tortured and kept in a dungeon and being treated with that." We showed that Tupperware with the red cayenne pepper in it. That shit hurts. That's not.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you can't compare battlefield medical treatment, to children. Are you kidding me? All right, this is abuse. This is neglect. These kids should have been brought to a doctor for treatment. But of course, they can't bring them to the doctor because then the doctor would know that they're being abused by these two women. So, they fall through the cracks.
We took a lot of crap for saying that was horrendous and horrific and torture and barbaric for them to use this stuff. I got many messages on DutyRon.com like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." No, we do know what we're talking about. That's not how you treat a child's wounds. That's how you treat someone if you're torturing them, i.e. Chanda Vanderark with Timothy Ferguson telling Paul to put Elijah's Extreme hot sauce on his bread and pile it high and deep and then pour it directly in his mouth. And we watched two grown adults take a teaspoon of it. One guy took a dab, the other one took a hole, and there was stuff coming out of their nose. He said his teeth were hot. He said that it feels like impending doom. Well, guess what? These two kids, if he didn't get out, they would be dead. I am so confident in that. They would be dead because they weren't going to stop. They were talking about bringing them out to a ranch where nobody's around, where we could really show them discipline. Sickening. Yeah.
I took a lot of heat about that too. Excuse the pun on the cayenne pepper, but cayenne pepper, I've read, can be okay for bruises, but it is not to be used on open wounds. So, I took a lot of heat about that too, but I 100% agree with you. That was done to inflict pain. And also because you're right, they couldn't take them to the hospital because too many questions would be asked. They were homeschooled specifically because there were complaints in school and they were mandated reporters. So they homeschooled them.
Yeah. This is the EMT or paramedic. I don't want to, downgrade her. She could either be an EMT and or a paramedic. So she was part of the crew that was out at Hildebrandt's home, and she got a look at the daughter, and she sat down with her for, I believe they said 4 hours. She sat in that small closet off of the bathroom. It looked like a bathroom, and she tried to comfort her, and that is called taking your time. And they did a fantastic job, from the police officers to her here, the EMT. But listen to what she says. I'm about to cry. It's just heartbreaking.
Camera video shows one of the first responders begin to cry after seeing RF's wounds.
Yeah. Shades on.
I'll take more.
I stand corrected. Yes, this is out at the home. This is Russell. I thought this was at the Hildebrandt home, but I'm wrong. But she also too was at Jodi's, which was just down the street, right? I'm not going crazy here. I saw her inside the house as well.
Yes, she was talking to the daughter, trying to get her to come out.
So they responded to both of these jobs. Ed, crazy.
It is. And, this happens in emergency responders every day, and it's how we deal with this afterwards that we have to be concerned about for the emergency responders, because there is some post-traumatic stress disorder involved in all of our jobs, and it needs to be addressed because now where's her outlet for what she just saw and what she was
Suicide rates
dealing
are
with?
so high amongst cops, firemen, EMS, hospital, emergency room workers, the nurses, people in the trauma rooms. They see it all. But when you see this out in the field and you see a young child, when you think of a child, you think of giving them love and giving them support and helping them and being nice to them. Not what you would see here. And these are multi-million-dollar homes. So it wasn't just like Jodi's home was the big kahuna. They're carved out in the mountains, all like the same. They're just all really nice homes. Melanie?
That house is on the market right now for $5.2 million. It's over 10,000 square feet.
Yeah.
I showed pictures of it last night on my it looks like a bunker. It looks like a prison, like a bunker. She actually had Airbnb guests in the house when the police show up to search the house, or she said she did.
Wow.
And that's what I was going to ask you guys too. Like, these first responders probably have never seen anything like this before, and probably never will be. The horror that they uncovered and can never unsee must take a lot of time to even get over or to deal with. I can't imagine the resources
it does.
They must give them.
No, it does, because I tell you time and time again on this show, it was always the children, the crime scenes that I've been to that affected me the worst. I've seen some terrible things, but it was always the children that hurt me the most. The innocence of this child being molested or killed, and so forth. And thank God I had a wife that was on the job, so I can discuss these things with her, because she has similar experiences. And then when things got a little heavy, I sought other avenues to deal with my issues.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It doesn't make you a lesser person.
Yeah, from experience myself too, Ed, you're right. It doesn't take you're not weak if you go for the help. But like for me, the first autopsy that I had to go to that involved a child, it was a homicide. Father killed his son. When I went to the Kings County morgue the next morning for the autopsy, I was not the same after that. Seeing that was difficult at best. And I'm not ashamed to say that I reached out for help, to talk to somebody from within the department. And I thought that it was going to come back to bite me in the ass, because I was afraid to do that. But I had to, because after seeing that, I was only 29 years old when I saw that. And it really had a lasting effect on me. Like, I was not ready for that. But, I spent about 4 hours on the scene at the location. He was stabbed to death. And I stayed until Barbara Butcher and the team came out from the medical examiner's office. It wasn't her per se, but Barbara Butcher equivalent. And then I had to report to the morgue for the autopsy and identification. I had to make the identification at the morgue. And it was difficult at best. Difficult. And it's still I'm almost 60 years old. I still think about that to this day, how difficult that was. So I want to let the rest of this play so we can get a little bit of a look at this. And then we're going to go into talking a little bit about her sick, twisted journal.
Soon, RF is loaded into the back of an ambulance. Body camera video shows a sergeant speak with a boy, saying he needs a few pictures of the wounds.
Hey, I'm Sergeant Tolber. I'm going to just get a few pictures. Are you okay with that?
Washington County released photos of the boy's wounds and his sister's, but we've decided not to show them because they're too gruesome. Additional video of RF being treated has been partially redacted, but you can hear a first.
Look at his neck. It almost looks like he's having difficulty breathing there. His shoulders, he's emaciated. I would be curious to know how much he weighed at this point. I'm sure that's got to be out there somewhere. But I'm sure it wasn't too much.
They blurred out the legs, and there's another unredacted photo where you can see how skinny his legs are. Like, I'm surprised they could even hold up the rest of his body. I mean,
I mean, look at his neck here. Look at this.
And look how giant that shirt is on him. At one time, it probably fit him.
Poor kid. He's got it buttoned all the way up to the top, 110 degrees out.
Mind the boy, he's not in trouble.
How did you get the ropes on you? Who did them? You're not in trouble with me, okay? We're just trying to figure out what's going on. Our main focus right now is you. Okay? Who put the ropes on you? Supposed to help you what?
An officer later describes RF's wounds, saying he could smell the flesh.
First observed the kid. He was sitting on the chair, had the duct tape and plastic around his ankles. And then he had a long sleeve shirt on. And then we pulled his sleeves up and he had duct tape and clear plastic underneath the sleeves on both wrists. And then medical got there. They started cutting the stuff off him. And then you can see like the dark around his ankles, and it you could smell it, the flesh.
And for those of you listening, these are two cops talking to each other with the body cam going. That is horrifying that he is saying that you could smell the flesh.
The rotting flesh.
Yeah. Ed, you processed over 2,700 crime scenes. And like you said, the ones where it involves children are the most difficult. And these officers, paramedics, the EMT, the squad, everyone who's dealt with this, they're not going to be the same. It's really difficult. And 15 years, shame on the justice system. And I'm hoping that they did what they could within the letter of the law. But they got slaps on the wrist as far as I'm concerned. And when we look at the totality of all this evidence and everything that went on, then there's probably some stuff that we haven't found out about yet that they did that maybe didn't get documented. They weren't nice people, and they weren't being nice, especially between the dates of May 23rd, 2023, going to August 30th, 2023. But what happened leading up to that? You know, what happened that's not documented here? How long did this, in fact, really go on with these kids? We heard about her older son. I don't know, maybe it was Chad, that he was forced to sleep on a beanbag chair for a period of time. Melanie, I know you could probably talk more on that.
Yeah, he was, the parents broadcast this on their YouTube channel, 8 Passengers, where they, would every day publish their kids' most embarrassing moments. But apparently the older son played a trick on the younger son, who was pictured here in this video today, saying that they were going to go to Disney World or something, and it was a joke. And the parents got mad and they took away his bed and his bedroom, and he slept on a beanbag for 8 months. And then they laughed about it on their YouTube channel and thought that that was an appropriate punishment. And, just like all of the other horrific videos that they posted, some about that little girl that we saw that was so scared to come out of the closet. That was the one where the mom wouldn't bring her lunch at school because she was 6 and she should have packed her own lunch. And
yeah, no, I'm not bringing her lunch. She should have known better.
Yeah, well, this will teach her next time. This will teach her next time to take care of herself. This is the lesson. Yeah, you're sick, woman. You're sick.
Yeah, and the scary thought is that in maybe a little bit over a decade, maybe she'll do 10, maybe she'll do less, maybe she'll do a little bit more, but she's going to get out. And will she have access to children? Yes, she will. She might not legally have access to them or not be able to be with them, but you know what? I wouldn't put anything past them. And Jodi Hildebrandt, I mean, she's a real sicko. And she really, I think she got off on breaking up marriages and pulling people.
Oh, yeah.
And there's an argument out there, and I'm not saying that this is it. So for those of you listening or watching the replay, don't come at me, but there's talk that Jodi had preference for women. And I could see that. I could see that here. I'm not saying that it is, but look, it is what it is. Ed, I want to play this piece because this shows the house, the compound, where these two kids were being held captive. It shows the outside. It's carved out of a mountain. And I know that you know Utah real well, Melanie. I'm not sure if you know how the lay of the land is. You said you showed it, but this is not the only house. There's tons of houses. It's a whole development, I believe, that they carved out of this mountain. So this is just a look at it from the body cam. You could see the mountains in the background, but this is a huge 10,000. You said 10,000 square feet home.
Yeah, 10,000 square feet. The houses are relatively far apart, though. Even though there are a lot of houses in this development, they are far apart. So
Yeah. I saw the Google Earth imaging, and I think I showed it on prior live streams. They are spaced out, and there's like a whole kind of drive leading up to this house. It's far in the back. But who the hell needs 10,000 square feet?
And she lived alone. She was divorced. Her children, wrote her off. They weren't in contact with her. It was her own, just her.
It's Ed,
and her
Ed
YouTube
Wallace,
studio.
Ed Wallace only has 9,800, but who the hell needs?
Hey, she obviously made a lot of money in what she was doing that she could afford to purchase a house like this. Okay. And, so like I said, we really should be looking into her past and all of her clients and what she's done, because she's established a pattern, in my opinion, of abuse here and of home wrecking.
Yeah. 100%. And who did I call a home wrecking whore? Who was that?
Stop.
I forgot, but I mentioned that, and I got a lot of backlash on it. But when I think of that statement,
Connecticut.
Thank you, Michelle
Troconis.
Yeah, I did. But she is, and you know what, Jodi Hildebrandt, I think of it in a little bit of a different way. Troconis was going with a married man, and helped to dispose of Jennifer Dulos's body, and she's now in jail for it. She's going to prison. But Jodi Hildebrandt's no different. She wrecked people's home life. She took husbands away from their wives and told them that they were no good, and told them that they had this, that, and the other, addiction to this, addiction to that. We need time alone, and the time alone was ridiculous. What was it, 18 months, Melanie, or something?
By the time they were arrested, he had been asked to leave the house about a year before. So he was asked to leave in July of 2022. He left, never checked on his kids once.
Who doesn't
retire more than a year?
Yeah. Crazy, man. Like when I listened to that in that interview, and they asked him, when's the last time you saw this? Oh, long time. Yeah, it had to be over a year. Ed, you're smiling. What's happening over there?
Oh, I got to run. I just want to say goodbye, and was happy I was able to jump in here.
Ed, tell everybody where you are. Not exactly, because Margaret will kill you, but let everybody know what you're doing.
I'm in New Zealand. I'm in the I'm in my second city in New Zealand, and have one more city to go before I come home. So I'm enjoying myself immensely with my family and my wife, and having a good time.
Kia ora.
Yeah. Kia ora. Yes, that's correct. Kia ora.
Yeah.
All right.
Ed, thank you so much for taking out the time and coming and hanging out with me and Melanie. I didn't expect you to come, and I didn't ask you because I know you're on vacation, but that shows the dedication of Ed Wallace. He shows up, no link involved. He's like, hey, I'm getting right in. Boom.
He's mad about this. He's mad about this, just like we are.
He's mad as hell, and he's not going to take it anymore. There's the boss in the background.
Yes, that's correct.
Hi, Margaret. Hi, tell her we're saying hi.
Everybody says hi, Margaret. Okay. All right, got to run.
Take care, Ed. Thank you for joining. All right, there he goes, Ed Wallace. Melanie, I get so pissed, and he's mad as hell because Ed saw so much of this. When he was in crime scene, he saw so much of this abuse, and what happens? Where are they looking to go with this? What was Jodi and Ruby Franke's? What was their plan? Were they going to just stop at one point and say, okay, mission accomplished, we're done? No, they had plans to continue on, going into somewhere in the middle of nowhere and getting some cattle farm or some kind of ranch or something. And we could really inflict more punishment without any eyes on us.
Yeah, Arizona. They were looking in Arizona for some land, for some property. Who knows what their end game was here, but we can only speculate. And it's thank God it ended the way that it did, and that these children are still alive. And thank God nobody needed an amputation, because those limbs could have easily become septic.
Yeah.
And the injuries could have been so much worse. And the emotional injuries will last forever. I would submit to you that the amount of therapy that these children are going to need to lead a somewhat normal life is going to be extensive and intensive. And, these children are getting a life sentence. So the fact that these two monsters are getting a max of 30, doesn't really cut it in my book either. And another issue with this is the reason that we were talking about, the reason that the police in Springville were not able to do much more than knock on the door when the kids were left home alone, is because Utah is unique in that it has free range parenting laws. So law enforcement's not really allowed to get parents in trouble if they leave their kids home alone for extended periods of time, let's say. So that's a whole new thing to research, is Utah's free range parenting laws, and whether or not that could have led to something like this happening.
And that's utter insanity to have that go on in this day and age where we're scrutinized when we make bad statements, right? You have to be, you have to be proper in what you say. When you go to school and pick your kids up, you can't say certain things and words. You're going to allow this to go on where you can go untouched? I don't think so. Listen, if you see something, say something. As Ed said, if you suspect that your neighbor or anybody within your extended family or friends of friends or whatever, you see something or you sense that something is wrong, you got to speak up, because if you don't, this is what could happen. This is what you could have witnessed or could have helped these children. So I want to play this part because it shows Jodi Hildebrandt again get manhandled. We'll get a look at inside her home. So I'm going to let this play. It's just another minute or so.
But they thought it was.
So they're holding on to guns and they're ready to go here.
She's already on the phone with her attorney.
No, I'm not going to sit down.
Step out of the house. Step out of the house.
Whoa.
What's this guy's name?
It's my house.
Officials later explained they entered the house without a warrant because of exigent circumstances.
And you are supposed to announce yourself and explain the purpose.
It's the attorney.
Not yet, but I can do that with you on the phone. But again, there won't be any dialogue. We received a report of an emaciated juvenile that had duct tape around his extremities, that was asking for food and water. And based on that information, there are other people in the home, so we're ensuring that there is nobody else in the same condition. So under that exigency, we've entered the home.
Hildebrandt eventually does speak with officials.
That basically was enough to shut that attorney up, because the bottom line is you have one child that exited that home who had severe wounds. We heard them talk about the smell of flesh, open wounds, rotting skin, rotting. His body was rotting from these wounds. Emergency exception. They can go right in. They can go and make sure that the additional occupants are safe, including herself. I mean, you don't know what mental. These police officers do not have intel on what they got here. I mean, they went in there with rifles because they thought maybe there was 20, 30 kids in there. Maybe there was a whole slew. Maybe this was some child pornography or child smuggling ring. So you have to look at it from our lens, the police lens, is they don't know what's on the other side of that 10,000 square foot home. So you got to go in all or nothing, because you don't know what you're going to stumble across. So it is a difficult thing, and it's really tough to talk about, but we need to talk about this stuff and we need to get it out there. I want to go to some of the super chats and starred messages. Thank you, Carolyn, for being a member for 5 months. She says, hello, DutyRon and Melanie Little. Gonna be a good one. This is from the beginning. Wildfire, thank you for becoming a member. Thank you, Wendy, for the super sticker. Thank you, Sherry, for being a new member. And thank you, Jan, for becoming a YouTube member. You got time, Melanie?
Yeah, I got time.
You know, so let's lead them into what this journal is about. I'll let you do it because I know you didn't talk about it last night, but I
Right.
know that you have the knowledge of this.
This journal was about 60 pages. It was found during one of the executions of one of the search warrants, I guess. And it is Ruby's journal detailing the timeline of the abuse that these two children of hers suffered at the hands of their own mother and Jodi Hildebrandt, the licensed mental health counselor from Utah. And it's chilling. It's chilling. And, you know, this is a debate, Ron, that a lot of people are having, like, who should serve more time, Jodi or Ruby? You know, and I would submit to you that as the mother, Ruby should serve more time. These are her own children. How do you do this to your own children or let someone else do this to your own children?
I tend to
argue
agree
about that all
with you.
day.
I don't think many people would argue with us on that because
Now, Annika,
how do you allow somebody outside of your family? Jodi is not a family member.
Right.
I think she got intertwined through the Mormon church, right? With Jodi. She was referred to her.
She was Jodi's son's therapist.
There you go. So,
I mean, I'm sorry, Ruby's sons, the oldest son that slept on the beanbag, she was his therapist before she enmeshed herself into that family, which right away is a violation of her ethics as a counselor, licensed mental health counselor.
Thank you.
You don't do that.
Let's listen to this small little piece from Utah local ABC4, the local affiliate there.
As overwhelming. Tell us a little bit more on what you have been reading today.
Well, Courtney, we've been ciphering through files all day, including the 60-page journal written by Ruby Franke. And while the length of this is long, the details on how she had disciplined her children is what has made going through this document so overwhelming and difficult. Now, it includes details of Franke denying her children food and water, locking them outdoors, and saying the devil has taken possession of them. Now, like we said before, this story may contain graphic images or details sensitive to some viewers, so discretion is advised. This is where it all began.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. He's emaciated. He's got...
Look at that.
Oh.
The handcuffs.
Oh.
They look like they put saran wrap or some type of plastic wrapping, then duct taped over it.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was gauze, but I think you're right. It looks like saran wrap.
It's like saran wrap, something you would put on after you get a tattoo. So maybe they put the cayenne pepper treatment underneath here on saran wrap, so it seals in the freshness, and then wrapped up his arms with duct tape with this. I have duct tape here because I use it for various things around the house, not for what they use it for. This thing's probably about 5 years old, but this is exactly what is wrapped around this kid's wrists and on his ankle. Sickening. They go on to talk about the journal here, but they just set it up. This is halfway through.
Tape around his legs. He's hungry and he's thirsty.
The moment when a child...
I didn't see that.
I didn't either.
So that's the first
I haven't seen it.
So this is Channel 4, ABC4.com. Some people in the chat were talking about that. So I guess this is out there. They played this. I just, you might, maybe want to look away. I want to look at these ankles because I didn't see this.
I was looking at the back. I was focusing on his back.
My God.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. This is from the shackles. They sag down here. That's from the cuffs.
There's a jailhouse phone call, and I don't know if you have it or if you were going to play any jailhouse phone calls.
I don't have it.
You are? Okay. So there's a jailhouse phone call where Jodi is talking to somebody, maybe her, and she says that he inflicted those wounds upon himself. She said, yeah, we tied him up, but he's the one who moved around and tried to get out, and that's why he has those wounds. He did that to himself.
Are you freaking kidding me? Yep. Unbelievable. Yeah, sorry about that. Jolene Marie, our friend and moderator, she says trigger alert. That actually came as a surprise to me because I didn't even know that that was there. I saved that because I wanted to show the documents, and they go on here right after this to show the documents. Again, this is part of the case, and this is the sad, true facts. This is what that poor kid looked like, and up until just now, I didn't see that. So that was shocking for me to see as a seasoned retired cop from the city. Whoa, and that explains a lot. And it makes it so much more outrageous, Melanie, that these fuckers are getting out, having a chance to get out with 15 years.
And 4 years would be the minimum. 4 years, 1 year on each count, 1 to 15 on each count. So 4 years could be the minimum. Could you imagine?
Well, there better be fucking hell to raise at that 4-year mark. If that parole board, like we saw with Harmony Montgomery's step monster with Kayla, she's going to be out in 2 months. I'll be in an arm sling from my surgery, and she'll be walking around. She cut Harmony's clothing off of her in a bathtub that clogged the drain with her remains when he was squishing her and condensing her in that in the bathroom inside that homeless shelter, the shelter that they went to, apartment 1. I'll never forget this shit. But these two do not. They should be thrown underneath the jail and sit there and marinate for the rest of their lives until they be brought out in body bags out of that purgatory or wherever the fuck they are. I'm really pissed right now.
Yeah, they moved them to, apparently there's one, I think, woman's prison in Utah, and that's where they are. But the picture of his back, I can't even. I mean, his shoulder blades almost poking through his skin.
Yeah. And he had abrasions all over his back as well. So that could be from bugs eating.
She would poke him with a cactus. She poked him with a cactus. You'll see that in the journal.
It's savage, man. These two. This is the face of evil. And these two will be eligible for parole in 4 years.
Maybe even sooner. Who knows?
Oh. Where is it?
Oh, hell no.
I can't freaking believe that. Really frustrating. All right. Let's listen about the journal.
However, according to newly obtained documents detailing months of physical and mental abuse, this tale started way before. Among the documents is a 60-page scan of a journal said to be written by Ruby Franke, in which dated details of child abuse are documented. The first mention of Frankie's disciplining techniques is dated June 30th, 2023, where her child, referenced as R, refuses to do wall sits. The next day, July 1st, the journal says R is to stay outside, sleep outside, and only come inside to go to the bathroom and shower. On July 14th, R's younger sister E is said to be refusing to work, screams, and as punishment, has her hair shaved off.
Hey, I'm Sergeant Tolber. I'm going to just get a few pictures. Are you okay with that?
Page 10 details E's behavior with Frankie, stating, "Big day for evil. E manipulates me. She won't scream when Jodi is around, but with me, she wails. All night, E screamed, cried, and would hit her head on the tile floor. E says she wants to be pitiful." Frankie later describes R as a snake, saying he needs God, is in and out of possession, and that the only consistent thing about him is that he lies. E is said to be manipulative, particularly towards her mother, and the pixie haircut Frankie gave her was to eliminate the distraction of her hair. R then tells Frankie he'd rather have a glass of water than her as his mother.
You're not in trouble with me, okay? We're just trying to figure out what's going on. Our main focus right now is you, okay? Who put the ropes on you?
That was gruesome as well. That's another shot that I didn't see at all.
Where he's either in the hospital or in the ambulance. It's hard to tell, but
he's in the back of the ambulance. That's in the back of the bus. Yeah, I could see the stretcher, and I see the EMS worker on the right side of him. Yeah, I've been in enough of the back of ambulances to know definitely that was at the scene. I don't know what's in the bags next to his leg. It looked like that could actually be food of some sort. but his legs and his skin have a brown tint to it that you see from people who are dying.
Jaundice, yeah, like a jaundice. It looks like.
I mean, I'm looking at it on a high def screen here in the studio. It might not be coming across correctly there, but it's brown, like dark brown. Folks, hashtag Melanie, hashtag DutyRon for your questions. We're going to go to questions. Hey, listen, I want to pose this to you, and if I had time, I would make a poll. Do you feel that Jodi Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke received a proper sentence, or do you feel that they should have been locked up for the rest of their lives? Because in the state of Michigan, we know if you are convicted or you plead guilty to child abuse in the first degree, it's a sentence of up to life in prison. The judge has the discretion to give you life in prison. We saw Paul Ferguson get sentenced to 30 to 100 years for the participation in starving, torturing, and murdering his brother. He didn't get charged with murder because he cooperated for the prosecutor. He was a star witness to testify against his mother. But had he not testified, he would have been charged with murder as well. And at the end of the day, the state of Utah needs to do better, because this should have been life in prison for these two, because what they did here is irreversible. You cannot fix this. This poor boy and his sister, and the rest of the kids for that matter, including Shari, who's 20, Chad's the older one, they're all damaged for the rest of their lives. They're going to need,
The kids have a life sentence.
Yeah.
So these two are going to get less of a sentence than the children? Makes no sense.
Sickening. What's your thoughts on the journal? 60 pages. Is this a complete and total documentation of what Ruby Franke did with Jodi under Jodi Hildebrandt's direction? Or do you think that she just started that at a particular time? Like, what I'm asking you is, we have in that journal May 23rd, 22nd, 2023 to August 30th when they got caught.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there was things going on before that May 22nd documentation in that journal? I'm saying gut, and I'm saying just speculation here. I personally feel that this doesn't just, there's not a switch that just turns on and off.
Right.
She was doing this crazy shit when she had the 8 Passengers channel, right?
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, she was doing crazy punishments, but they were, I mean, never physical that we know of. But so much of this diary is redacted. So there's 60 pages of it, but we just don't even know. And not a lot of it says that Jodi's making me do this. So I think maybe in May was when they moved those children to Ivins, which, remember, is 4 hours away from the Springville home where the Franke home was, where there were 2 other daughters that also lived in the home. So at some point, Jodi moved into that house with them in Springville. And then perhaps in May was when they moved the 2 youngest children down to Ivins, which was 4 hours away, when they were in this bunker and they had all of this privacy and all this property where they could force these kids to do manual labor outside in the heat, 110 degrees, no shoes, carrying boxes, doing wall sits for hours and days at a time. So I don't know what went on before that, but I wouldn't be surprised. Let's just say.
It definitely, I wouldn't either. There had to have been something leading up to this. And like you said, this starts in a gradual progression where it just gets out of hand. And look, here's Ruby Franke with the 2. When under more normal times, he was a skinny boy to begin with, tall and skinny, long legs. She, again, this is picture in better times, I believe, when the husband was still in the picture. And I would hope and pray that he wouldn't allow this, but you never know. I mean, he seems to be just equally as.
Look, in one of his, there's 2 interviews that dropped yesterday of him. One's a video interrogation in the police department, and he's coming to pick up. He thinks he's coming to just pick up his kids. Yeah. And the second one is just audio only. And in that audio only, he says that when Jodi moved in with them, sometime in 2021, before he left, she was possessed. She was having satanic visions. She was, hearing all kinds of crazy noises, and she was possessed by the devil. And this is the woman that he left his children in the care of. So in my opinion, he holds some responsibility here too. And there's the possibility that additional charges in
I agree.
that county, in Utah County, because all of this, what happened in Ivins, is Washington County. So they've left the door open for more charges.
Melanie, I just wanted, I'm sorry about that noise. That was me. Is this it? This was the.
This is the video. It's the audio that has him talking about how she's the devil.
I wonder what time this is. This is a freaking 45 minutes. Let's take a little. Hey, let's ask the chat. Hey, chat, do you want me to scan through this so we can find that clip? I mean, I'm sure that I can scroll through this and find it. If you're interested in this, let us know. Place a 1 in the chat if you're interested. If you're not, put a 2 if you don't want to hear this. But this is Ruby Frankie's husband, who is separated from them. He also has a piece, I believe. I think that, you know, he's playing stupid, but come on, what husband? I don't care what your makeup is or what your, you know, what your mental situation is or how you stand. Who in their right mind, man or woman, is going to accept that you're going to separate me from my wife for a year and my kids? I mean, I can't even see the wife part, but the kids, come on, give me a freaking break.
Okay, I'm unaware of your involvement in what's really going on. So for you to say that you're unaware of the status of your kids kind of makes, I know that sounds kind of crummy to you, but it sounds kind of good to me. Like, who lived in that home with your, is it ex-wife? Is he currently a separated wife? Like, who lived in that home with your children?
To be honest, I don't know. I know that she's there with.
That blew my mind when he said, to be honest, I don't know.
Didn't even know where the kids were, where they were living, who they were living with.
It's mind blowing.
It might help to put the closed captions on because it gets a little kind of muffled a little bit. Just a suggestion. There you go.
4 of the children and our 2 older children.
Thank you, Melanie.
North Main Street.
I received a message that I
listen to this.
got my kids from the police department in Ivins.
And who was that message from?
To say right
It would just help us a lot.
I'll try to figure out who reached out to you because it makes sense that that would happen. I'm just not aware of anyone who did that from our department.
Right. And I'm not comfortable saying right now who reached out to.
Okay.
Here's a question for you, Melanie. Question: Can he still be charged? Is he just as culpable if they find out some other additional information?
Yeah. Well, the prosecutor of Washington County, which is where these 2 are sitting or were arrested, has left it open and said there may be additional. We're not going to charge anybody else here in Washington County, but investigations may be ongoing in other counties. So this is going to kill him in his custody. He's looking for custody of these kids. So all this evidence drop is going to kill him in his ability to try and get custody of these kids, because they ask him several times, who called you to tell you to come and pick up your kids? And he won't say.
Okay.
So you haven't seen any of your kids in over a year, you said?
That's correct.
And then what was the last time you saw her? How old is she now?
15.
15. Okay. And then when all the kids left, Ruby took all of them?
Yeah, she stayed in the house.
Okay. And
what husband in the chat? I want to pull. I know I don't have many men watching. Percentage wise, it's high with women, but how many men watching would accept that your wife picks up with your 5, 6 kids and just takes off? I think. Wait, one of them was out on their own, right? The daughter, Sherry, she was out. She's 20.
Yeah, and I think the son aged out as well.
So Sherry and Chad were out. So okay, 4 kids. You pick them up and you say, "I'm out. You can't see them anymore. You're not going to be able to hear them." What man who's watching this chat? I'm just curious to my men out there, would be okay with that. I personally wouldn't. I would be jumping up and down and I'd be calling the police. I'd be doing welfare checks if I was not granted access to speak. He says that he never even spoke with them.
Nope. She forced the kids to block him on their phones, and she didn't even pick up and leave. She asked him to leave. He says later on, I was invited to leave. So he leaves. He's local. He's not far away. never makes an effort. There was no order in place that he couldn't see his children. There had been nothing filed in the family court for any legal separation or divorce. He had every legal right to see those children. He chose not to.
Yeah. And, you know, he was part of the 8 passengers. He was all over that, their videos. And I think the investigator asks him, because when I was scanning through this earlier, I heard her say, or her or him, they, I think both of them asked him, weren't you a part of the 8 passenger? And he kind of reluctantly, but did say, yeah, I was on it. I was. So if you're like one of these live streamers or YouTubers and whatever, you're going to just say, oh yeah, I'll leave, you take the kids and I'll go and get an apartment somewhere. That's fine.
Did you ever try to reach out to the kids, drop by the home, or was there?
I honored the separation.
So what was your separation? Did you have a no contact order in place?
No, this was between.
So what did Ruby ask of you when you separated?
Did she ask?
Did she ask you not to contact the kids?
Ruby invited me to leave the home. While
there it is.
Ruby invited me to leave the home. Invited me. So I accepted that invitation and I left the home, and then I didn't contact my kids for a year, and now I'm driving 4 hours to come pick them up, and I don't know why, and I'm not going to tell you who told me to come down here.
I asked, is this guy on drugs? What, you know?
He was a professor at BYU.
It seems like he's in a trance.
Yeah.
It still seems like he's in a trance. And I heard, and I know that you did because we talked about this, I heard that he's lovey-dovey with her on the phone from jail, from prison.
Yeah. And at the end of this interview, he's like, I love my wife. I love my wife. I love my wife. I just want, is my wife going to be okay? Or are you going to charge her? I love my wife. I trust my wife.
I'm going to stand by her side.
The choices that I've made in my life.
I go to Mr. Hand on this.
What are you people? On dope?
Her.
Can't help it.
So I left.
And how long had you and Ruby been married before?
We were married in 2000.
So about 22 years?
I can't.
When we separated, we were going on 22 years. Yes.
Okay. And during your marriage, how was disciplining your kids? How would you discipline your kids?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay, that's fine.
Have you been since separated or since they lived here in the city of Ivins? Have you communicated with your wife regarding like disciplining with your kids or their care or their physical well-being?
No.
So is she doing this on her own and just telling you how your kids are?
She's not telling me anything.
Who's this female Jodi that your wife lives with? Do you know a female named Jodi?
She is a therapist and life coach, and she's.
Do you respect her?
Do I respect her? Yeah, I think she's a very honest, faithful person. Yes.
Okay. Do you place value on Jodi?
Whoa, I got to stop that. She's an honest
and truthful
person.
She's the one who convinced him he had a pornography addiction, and that's why he needed to leave his family to cure his pornography addiction.
And that we heard that from her niece, right? Her niece said that she did that to her too.
Yeah. And what I love about these detectives is that they've already done their homework. They know exactly what's on the 8 Passengers channel, and you know that they already know the answers to the questions. This is like excellent, in my opinion, as a lawyer, excellent detective work. You tell us what you think is going on here, but
oh yeah, it's gold. This
the
is
female especially.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Like you value what she says and how she treats. Is your wife a client of hers? Is your wife a partner of hers? Is your wife a roommate with her? Your kids are living in her house is what I'm trying to say.
I'm not aware of that, but I know that they've been in business for the last year filming.
Who's they?
Ruby and Jodi. They film podcasts, and so every week the podcast goes up and I listen to it.
He's watching the podcast.
So he's a listener. He's watching them on this connections thing. So just for the audience, the Ruby Franke home is 269 miles south, I believe, via Highway 15. Right? They're at Brookwood Drive, and the drive Brookwood Drive to Jodi's home is 269 miles, and according to what the husband knew is, and what we know or knew from knowledge that was released, documents that were released, and reports, is that she was traveling that 200. That's a long trip.
It's 4 hours at least.
Yeah, to take. So it's just fascinating. This is gold. I could probably, this is just 45 minutes. I could probably listen to this whole thing on a live stream and critique it. And this guy,
for sure.
I don't, I'm sure that he's a smart guy, but when he's being interviewed here, he was a professor, but when he's being interviewed here, he is really coming off as a big dummy. Big dummy. Sorry, but not.
Wait till the detective says your son was found emaciated and he doesn't know what that means.
Wow.
What's the name of it?
Connections with an X.
Like
With an X?
CON.
Connections with an X.
CONNEXIONS. Yeah.
And you support them in that role and doing that and having.
Yeah, send them super chat.
Do I support them in the business?
Yeah, do you support them and think that what they're doing is a good thing, or?
Yeah, I support their business efforts. I think it's a good thing.
Are you involved with their business efforts, or?
No.
I'm blocked.
So just Ruby and Jodi.
Okay, in the business?
Yeah.
Yes.
My bird is laughing in the background.
And were you involved in the 8 passengers account with your family?
Yes. I was in the videos, if that's what you mean.
I briefly learned about this 2 hours ago.
So did Ruby more so do the videos for the family? And how long did you guys do that for?
She started the channel in 2015, and as far as I'm aware, at the time I left, the last video she uploaded was towards the end of 2021.
Okay.
And I'm not aware of anything she's done since our separation. I don't visit the facts.
So Virginia Little, who may or may not be related to you, says what we were just saying. Is he medicated or on drugs?
Yeah, he seems like catatonic. And he is wearing a purse. Someone says he's wearing a purse. It's like a man bag he's got around him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, no offense to people, guys who wear man bags. Ed Wallace wears one, but he's got his gun in there. But yeah, this whole thing is very odd and off-putting, and he seems like he's in a trance. So thank you, Virginia Little. No relation to Attorney Melanie Little that we know of at this point. But yeah, thank you for mentioning this, and thank you about the closed caption, because I never utilized that. It's probably something that I'm going to continue to do. You guys want to hear a little bit more? Do you know at what point he talks about the possession, like the evil?
You know what? He doesn't talk about the possession on the video. There's a separate audio interview of him that's audio only, and that's.
Right, let's listen to another 10 minutes or so of this or whatever.
I think if you kind of like search for, if you like fast forward and search for the word like emaciated, you can see, because he still doesn't know why he's there. He doesn't know. He just thinks he's picking up his kids. And then they tell him, your son's been found emaciated, and there's like no reaction. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, I can do that.
Word, yeah. They're trying to find out, if he knew or was involved in this abuse, because they know, but apparently he didn't even know they were living down there. And he's like annoyed that he had to drive there.
Business inside, where we had made a lot of changes in his life.
Okay, well, that's something you and Ruby saw.
Well, even
like Jodi helped you guys recognize that writing and doing podcasts. And
sure.
Rope burns.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's where he's going to
the exact time, but sometime before 11 o'clock today, we received a phone call from 911 on our dispatch that a 12 to 13-year-old boy was knocking on doors in a neighborhood asking for food and water.
No
That
expression.
he was severely emaciated, that he had
What is emaciated?
skinny, scrawny, malnutrition, not enough food, not enough water to sustain life. So he had duct tape on his extremities, on his hands, on his ankles, and those were covering rope burns that were used to tie him down. Take a second and think about what I just said. That's the condition of your son. Given that information, your son was taken to the hospital. A warrant has been applied and granted by the Department of Child and Family Services to remove both from your wife's care. So no one right now is going to have access to these two children based on their physical condition. Do you understand that?
I understand.
Would you?
I would be like, what did you just say?
Do you hear how pissed that detective is? He's so pissed.
He's pounding the table.
Yeah.
But I'd be like, what? Did you just, my kids? What? Where are
Yeah.
they? Are they okay? He didn't even say, are they okay?
Are they going to live? What kind of condition are they in?
I'm losing my shit right here.
Yeah.
Right now.
I knew you would.
Holy shiitake mushroom.
Genuine reaction from DutyRon today. Genuine reaction video.
Condone that behavior?
Would I condone that behavior?
That's my job. My job is to find out your knowledge of the treatment of these
based on
precious
description,
children.
no. Yeah, I don't know the details or I don't know what's going on, as you described.
Please tell me that that's not true, Melanie.
That he says, I don't know the details yet, so I'm not really sure if I would condone it or not.
Yeah, that and
Oh no, that he has 4 of the children. No, they're still in state custody.
No, Chrissy, shut up, Chrissy.
Sorry, Chrissy, they're still in state custody.
That's the screen name. Sorry.
The 2 older ones might be with Shari, the sister, but they are not with him. He's fighting for custody right now.
The statement under my esteemed colleague and good friend Melanie Little is not true. Stop going on Facebook.
Horrible, disgusting. No human being should be treated like that. That's my thoughts. But
Right.
again,
Yeah.
we
Okay.
might be different on
I don't fucking believe this.
We're like, we might be different on that. We're gonna like sit here for a second, okay? We're gonna go out and talk.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. So they're going to leave and they're going to let him sit there, and you tell me what they're doing. They're watching him right through the two-way glass. They want to see what he does.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
But well, they already have a good picture of that. He's got no emotion. He didn't ask, "Are my kids okay?"
Nope.
He doesn't give 2 flying shits about what the detective just told him, that his son had open wounds on his legs and his arms, emaciated to where you can't sustain life, is his exact words. And he just stands there like an idiot, just like, okay. I gotta listen to this. I have to listen to this again.
It gets worse.
You listened to this whole thing?
I did.
Oh, good God. Why did I lose my spot?
No, you're there. That's right where you are.
Disgusting. No human being should be treated like that. That's my thoughts.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's what a loving father. I mean, this guy has to either is on some type of something. I mean, he has. There's something. Yeah. I mean, This is not normal reactions from a loving father. You tell me that my kids, who have been ripped away from me for a whole year plus, are now taken away and are injured with duct tape and open wounds. This is the reaction that you're going to get? This guy is a piece of shit. Wow. Yeah, he doesn't ask about his other kids. But what about my other kids? Are they all
We're
right?
going to stay here for a second, okay? We're going to go out and talk. I'm not saying you're still not free to go. Are you under arrest? Absolutely not. You just have lots of questions that we need to figure out. Lots.
You're still not free to go.
Right at the beginning of this, they Mirandize him. We didn't watch that part, but at the very beginning, they read him his rights. So I don't know what that means. Maybe from a detective standpoint, you can tell us what that means. Like, we're reserving our right to arrest you, and we're going to.
Yeah. Right. So good point, and thank you for bringing that up. What happens in these things is sometimes an interview leads to an interrogation, and it leads to a potential arrest if they catch him in something, or he inadvertently implicates himself in some type of hand in of the crime. So you have to do that up front, because if that interview now progresses into where they're going to lock him up and they didn't Mirandarize him, his attorney's going to get it all thrown out. So let me just save this time spot, 26:36. Let's go to the beginning, and I want to hear
about your involvement. Okay. So first, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you in the court of law. Okay. You have the right to an attorney, or to have him or her present while questioning. If you cannot afford to hire one will be hired to represent you. If you decide to answer questions, you can stop at any time. Okay. Do you understand your rights?
I do.
Okay. Do you wish to speak to me now?
Well, I want to pick up my kids.
How about this? We're going to ask you some questions, and if you don't want to answer them, you just say, hey, man, I'm not going to answer that.
Sure.
And it's just say, hey, I'm not going to talk. That's not beneficial to you, and then we're done. There's no way, I don't know where.
See, so what I have had this happen before, and they didn't get. He does say, "Yeah, sure," but they're asking. Like, I would have gone back after I've just advised you of your rights. Do you want to still talk to me? It was just part of what we did. That was like pounded home to us. So if we, like in this situation, a lawyer can argue that they word saladed, to him.
Right.
They were kind of talking to him about something else. And so that's, I mean, again, there's no criminal charges. This is from 2023.
August, yeah.
Right now. So it's, August 30th, it's the day, 2023. But they should have went back and said, now that I've advised you of these rights, do you still wish to talk to us? Even after that, because they need him to say, hands down, yes, I'll talk to you.
Right.
And here he just says, yeah, okay. So it was interesting. 20, what did I say? 26:36? Yeah. All right. Let's listen.
Lots.
Melanie, do you have something to do today?
Not until like 6:30. I'm good.
All right, we got till 6:30.
It means you don't have access to them. My understanding is that they are, what is that?
They're in the custody of DCFS.
And they will be for the next 7
There's a medical hold on them right now. So for at least the next 72 hours, based on our understanding.
A medical hold. He doesn't even ask what that means.
They're in observation.
They're
They're being watched.
DCFS is going to provide you that information, and they can better answer your questions along those lines. That's handled through them. Okay. So we'll be back.
So I want you to think about some things, though.
I'm going to just say something about this interview. And again, don't come at me. Well, you can. As Melanie says, come at me in the comments. When I did interview and interrogation, and we were most of the times it was a team. It was kind of the good guy, bad guy thing. We never interrupted each other. You got to just let one person talk in these things. And then if there's something that the other investigator sees or can add to it, then you take over. But it's what they're doing here, to me, is kind of amateurish, because you don't do this. You want to pin somebody down into specific questions and specific and answers to those questions, not, well, he started the sentence and she finished it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That's interesting. That's great to know. It's kind of like when you're talking in court, you have to wait for the question to finish before you answer because the court reporter is writing everything down. You can't talk on top of each other. That's a great point.
It comes from experience and it comes from doing it a lot. If just an example, if I was doing an interview and I was with my male partner or a female partner, at the end of this, if I was the one doing that, I would get yelled at. They would be like, hey, don't fucking do that again. You know, if I'm talking, let me finish what I'm saying because I'm trying to lead into a certain area. And if you start talking, it just throws the whole thing off. So just some food for thought. Again, we have had a lot of interview and interrogations, NYPD. There was 2,200 murders in 1991 when I started, and it still was in 1995 at about 1,900 a year murders. So we supplemented a lot. And Lieutenant Pete Pranzo, Harlem Raiders, he can tell you guys that what I'm saying is true because he is a boss. LT, if I did that and you were in charge of a squad and you heard the recording of me talking over my partner, you would be like, hey, come into my office. I want to talk to you in a minute.
Do you know that Peter Pranzo was my Uncle Eddie's boss? And we did not realize that until about a month ago.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? Small world, huh?
He told me that, and I forgot to actually mention it to you. That's so cool. Small world, right?
Yeah.
I think that we kind of got the point across. Again, we could do another live stream. I may dedicate a whole live stream just to these body cam footages. You know, the ones of, because I had queued up when Jodi and Ruby got collared, and they told them I can't put my right hand all the way up, but they told them to put their hands on the back of their head. We don't do that either here, and I'm not saying it's wrong because it's tactics. It's tactics 101. We always make somebody put their hands behind their back. We don't tell them put your hands on your head, but it's done so many different ways. But I got such great pleasure after reviewing lots of this data from today and all this information. This information dump is exhausting. It's so much to read. Yeah. So, but after going over and scanning the stuff, it gave me great pleasure to see them get locked up. You know, put your hands up, you know, put your hands on the top of your head. And they were just silent. And the way Ruby Franke just looked like stared at them during her interview. And they were trying so hard to get her to talk. And she just stone-faced looked at them and
the arrogance,
yeah. So folks, I want to just encourage you all to go on over to Attorney Melanie Little's YouTube channel and subscribe to her. She's doing great things, and her channel is growing for a good reason because she is awesome. She's got a whole bunch of awesomeness going on in her chat, and the moderators over there, most of them are from, you know, like cross-pollinated, as we say, right? We share a lot of our subscribers and our good people. You can go over there and not be attacked in the chat. And the same thing here. I try to do the best that I can to keep it classy and keep it, you know, respectful. If you have a varied opinion, you can express that opinion without attacking somebody else, whether it's someone in the chat or someone down below in the comments. Just keep it respectful, and you can voice your opinion all day, every day. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with my friend, my guest, Melanie. But once you take it to that level and you go there, then you are Gandhi. You're blocked, and I'll see you later.
Right.
I want to go to you for final thoughts on this Ruby Franke, Jodi Hildebrandt. Is this over? Have we seen the last of it? Is Kevin looking at charges? What about this bum Pam Bodger or whatever the frick her name is? What do you think, Mel?
I don't know. You know, I'm not from Utah. I'm a New York lawyer. So I got to say that I hope this investigation is ongoing, and I hope there's the potential of some more charges here, but you just never know. I do think that all of this stuff that dropped in this evidence dump isn't going to hurt Kevin in his ability to try and get custody of his remaining 4 children who are still under 18. So there's that. And I want to say to you, DutyRon, that the first show that you ever invited me to do with you was almost a year ago. It was March 30th of 2023. And at that time, so it was almost exactly a year ago. You said 6 months earlier, but it's been a year. Time flies the older we get, right?
Holy cow.
And so thank you for allowing me to guest host with you so many times when Ed was on assignment all the way back a year ago. And I started guest hosting with you before I even started my own channel. So thank you for that opportunity. And so many of your viewers followed me, and that's how I got my start. So thank you. You are the most generous of benefactors and mentors, and, you know, happy anniversary. And
thank you. Yeah. So Melanie and I started out, again, I didn't realize it was a year ago. It just seemed like it was just 6 months ago. So thank you for correcting me on that. But she's taught me a lot as it pertains to, you know, from the attorney's perspective. And I have such great respect for all the trades in law enforcement. It's not just about the cops locking up people. There's so much work to do on the defense side. There's so much work to do on the prosecutorial side and everything that goes in between. So I have great respect and admiration for my counterparts and the people who I worked alongside over 20 years, 2 decades of my life. Today is my 33rd wedding anniversary, and I'm going to go up before I get killed by my wife. Spend some time with her. It's raining so hard here in New York. It's like
it's raining sideways.
Yeah,
that's how hard it's raining right now.
So again, I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank you for coming and spending almost 2 hours of your time. It's unlike me to do a 2-hour live stream, but I have Attorney Melanie Little, and it was a lot to unpack here. So thank you for hanging out with us for 1 hour and 51. I want to just send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to the Franke children. And look, there's branches of different people in the family, as we heard from Jodi Hildebrandt's her niece, right? There's more probably that are not willing to come forward and talk. So I want to just send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to all of the people who have been affected by these monsters. Yeah. They're evil. They're ruthless. They are, in my eyes, killers. They would have murdered these kids. They would have killed the kids if that young boy didn't spring himself free. We could have been looking at a tragedy tenfold here. So
well, they've certainly killed their spirits and their soul and their innocence. So
they damn sure did. On behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Melanie Little and Ed Wallace, we wish you guys a happy Saturday. I hope the rest of your weekend goes well. And again, I'll be off the air after Tuesday, the 26th. Send me some prayers and strength in the comments. I'm getting a full rotator cuff tear repaired. It's going to be a good 6 to 9 months of recovery. It's going to be tough for me to use this right hand. I can barely lift it above this point. So thank you for all the understanding. I'll be uploading audio content and things of that nature, but it'll give me time to come and hang out in Melanie's chat when she goes live. So yeah, thank you again. Make sure you guys go subscribe and stand by for a message from the cop team. That's Clara, Oscar, and Popeye. And Popeye's been laughing and cursing this whole time. Thank God I have a limiter on this mic, but he was listening to me with the cussy words, and he was like mimicking me in the background. So it's pretty funny. Yeah. Good night. Take care, guys. Thank you for joining.